All right, I think we can begin. Hello everyone who's joined in. Thank you so much for taking out the time today. Uh, Kushbu this side, I'm part of the D2C Insider team, and just hi. Okay, so uh, Khushbu this side from D2C Insider, and thank you everyone for joining in. Quickly wanted to share a little bit about D2C Insider. Assuming most of us here already knows about D2C Insider, but for a few who might not know, we are a founders community. We have some 7,000 plus founders who are part of our community, and you know. We do a lot of initiatives to enable the D2C ecosystem. We have some 7,000 plus founders who are part of our community, and as a community, a bunch of initiatives that we do, including founder led events, founder led initi uh, can you guys hear me all right? Uh, as part of a community, we have the events that we do. We did some 22 events last year. We plan to do some 40 events this year. Other than that, we also have a learning platform called D2C Insider Elevate. With that, we have created a cohort of revered D2C brand founders who come together to empower the upcoming next gen D2C brand founders. So that's also something that we do. If you are an upcoming entrepreneur and are facing challenge uh, scaling up in the D2C space or in the retail space, feel free to check that out also. We also have a capital arm wherein we've created our own Super Angels fund. And then other than that, we also have a news media PR arm. Our newsletter being one of the first properties there that is also very much focused towards the D2C vertical. We have some 20,000 plus subscribers, across on our newsletter also. So if you've not subscribed on that, definitely recommend you to check that out also. And coming back to our various initiatives that we do as a community, right? Webinar is one such thing. We keep doing these webinars on, some common interest topic, on some topics that we think that will help a large chunk of our D2C founders who are part of our community and even otherwise, in general. So today is one such day, and we have, uh, uh, Rapid Canvas team join in today to help us unlock some queries, issues around AI. AI is such a widespread topic that there are so many unknowns that most of the founders have, right? So, they have their expertise in the AI domain. D2C being one of the verticals that they also cater to. So really, really excited to have, the Rapid Canvas team today with me. I have Vinay, who's joining us in, as our co-host. Uh, Before I get and introduce Vinay, let me quickly, share the flow of the webinar, how it's going to be. So we'll have about 30 to 45 minutes of presentation that Vinay will help us, take step by step in terms of how one needs to uh, you know uh, uh, what are the best practices around AI for you as a D2C founder that you need to keep in mind. Uh, and post that, we will open up for Q&A. So feel free to put in your questions, in the Q&A section below, and we will take that up towards the end of the webinar. And quickly introducing Vinay. He is heading growth at Rapid Canvas. He has 15 years plus of experience across products, partnerships, and delivery, and has immense experience and know-how in AI implementation and within that industry. And he's also been a co-founder at Binder and has held some reputable positions at companies like IntraEdge and Cameo. We also have Saurabh and Kavya who are part of Rapid Canvas team, where Saurabh leads the APAC business overall, and Kavya is part of the marketing team. So yeah, over to you, Vinay.
Thank you so much, Khushbu, for the introduction. Great to meet you all, guys. I see that we have overall about 32 participants. It's a good community. Again, a quick introduction. Rapid Canvas is an AI company, and I would like to specify that we are an auto AI company. We had a good news coming out just yesterday. We made our
Yeah.
first funding announcement. So the news is out. We are backed by Axel and venture capital partners. We're just happy to share that news, just like how you would all be happy raising new capital for your own business. So in this session, what I want to do is take you through the journey of what I have discovered in my conversations with the D2C community over the last few months about how they generally think about AI, about what their state of business is and what their state of technology is, especially in our assessment, and how easy or how difficult it is to plug AI, and what are the concerns that people have about AI, and how AI can actually help you improve ROI, how to even assess ROI with AI in your business. So uh, I am beginning with an assumption that you may have a range of questions, because I know I'm not talking to one person to delve deep, but I will be covering a range of ideas. But feel free to just put in your questions in the chat. At the end of this presentation, I would be very happy to get into those questions and see how much I can help you answer those questions. But I think what the position that I will assume is that of a guy who is capable of understanding what it takes to succeed with AI, but not a guy who understands the D2C business in depth, because the nuances of the D2C businesses that I have seen are varied and diverse. Uh, Different brands, different things that they sell, the challenges of those markets are super specific. And even if I say that there is one AI solution, that AI solution has to be custom made for you guys. I mean, a solution that works for a book selling brand will not be a solution that will work for, let us say, an apparel selling brand, right? So the nuances are there, and we may have to discuss things in detail if we go to specifics. But that said, I will just get started with my presentation. Um, Usually, in my experience, what I've seen is that whenever we begin a discussion with the D2C founders, the first conversation is, what are the metrics that you're trying to optimize on? And there are a range of metrics. Early on, just like the slide, in our head, it was like, hey, how is it that one form of business can try to optimize for so many metrics at a time? But then eventually we found out that it's not that D2C metrics want to optimize for everything. There is actually a life cycle set for it. The scenario is much more organized. There are early stage D2C brands which are trying to just get their Shopify stores or get their Cartify stores, or just set up, their sales on Amazon, they set up their sales on Flipkarts. These are the very, very early stage D2C companies that are trying to establish their own brand identity. And in their scenarios, what we found was that some of the challenges that they face are as basic as, how do I set up my data flows so that they make sense? Do I believe Google Analytics data? Do I believe Shopify data? Or do I have to set up some other BI in place so that both these data sources are combined and I can make a picture? What do I track? What conversions do I track? Do I track conversions of website visits? Do I track conversions of add to carts? Which numbers to believe? Uh, what is the single source of truth when it comes to data? This is the most common question that we saw when it came to very, very early stage D2C startups. The experience of the founders did not matter. What mattered, especially in answering this question, was whether they had a marketing agency. And it was nice to see that when there is trust on the marketing agency, then whatever the marketing agency says goes. But it still was a little inconvenient for us to see that the founders, some of those that we spoke to, did not really feel convinced about what their single source of truth was. Uh, but that's the problem that we identified that early stage D2C founders have. But once you cross the early stage, once your brand has some visibility, once you're stable in one market, two markets, and you are now thinking about expanding into other markets, then we have seen the goals are slightly varying. Then the metrics that you're optimizing are not the basic metrics. They are also not the basic problems such as establishing single source of truth. By this time, people would have crossed issues like, hey, how do we get our data? What kind of scraping we need to do? What kind of manual intervention should be in place to get data? And all of that. But once you are talking about the new markets, then the questions are how do we bring more customers? How do we build revenues? How do we understand what is the customer lifetime value? How do we make the customer buy more? How do we increase the average order value? How do we optimize the return on ad spend? Because early on, I think your spend will be sky high. I mean, practically there is no limit to how much you can spend to get the brand awareness going. But eventually, once your brand is established, I think it becomes a very conscious goal to try and cut down the ad spend. So we have seen that that second stage metrics are all about optimizing the operations and increasing the revenue. That's where the business goes. And then in the third stage, what we have seen is these are D2C brands that have typically crossed maybe 4 years in the journey, 5 years in the journey, have already started making maybe 60 crores, 100 crores business every year and so on. And these are businesses that are now talking about, okay, I have a stable tech stack. I know how to optimize for my operations, but now the question is how am I optimized for going to international markets? How am I optimized for, let us say, the customer loyalty? How am I optimized for having more evangelists in the market space? How do I get more reviews? I mean, all said and done, everybody says reviews are important, but I don't think that's the primary concern of the early stage D2C founders. I think the priority becomes very clear when the question is, do you want money first or reputation first? And money comes first, hands down. So I think reviews and those sort of things, what we have noticed again on a broader pattern. This is not specific to one B2C company. Specifics can change, but on a broader scale, what we have seen is anything related to reputation and the brand valuation stuff like that goes towards the maturity phase, and then it's the last stage where we are looking at expansion and all of that, and then you have a lot of cross sell upsell. Not that cross-sell upsell should have to really wait for an expansion state, depending on what is the range of products that a D2C brand sells. That might start much earlier, but typically that is where we have seen that the growth path of companies is the screen is not shared.
No, that's what I was telling.
Hey,
Can
I'm so
you
sorry.
share?
I'm so sorry. I didn't see that. I thought I was sharing. I'm so sorry. Are you able to see my screen now?
Yeah, when it's visible now.
Ah, cool. Hey, I'm so sorry. I will let you guys just take maybe 15 seconds to look at the slide. But effectively, I was just saying that during different phases of the business, I think you guys optimize for different metrics because the focus at the time is also different. And what I've understood when I was at the Mumbai event of the D2C was also that these focus areas align very well with the capital raising goals of the companies. That when you get into conversations with investors and what the investors are asking for, I think the investors are also sensible in understanding that there is a life cycle to that growth, and at different points you optimize for different things. And they probably are on your advisory board today making the same kind of suggestions. Again, like I said, I'm not pretending to be the expert, but this is the lesson that we learned over the last few months of interacting with several D2C brands. I would be happy to know if there are any differences in the specifics, nuances. Just feel free to share any tidbits and your pearls of wisdom also in the chat. I would be happy. But I will let you just take 15 seconds to look at the slide and record any of your questions or comments before I move on.
Guys, just make sure that you're posting, any question that you may have in the Q&A.
I hope I'm loud enough. I'm just seeing a message in the chat asking us to speak loudly. I hope I'm loud enough.
Yeah, you're absolutely fine, Vinay.
Cool. So let's move on. Now, again, when we say AI, again, I don't want to put AI as just a technical tidbit. There are, in our experience, if you permit me, I'll just go back to the previous slide. What we have seen is that this life cycle is so important that there are many, many critical decisions made along this life cycle. One such decision is the investment in technology. Like, what technology do you want to have? How much do you want to split between, let us say, how much you pay to the marketing agency and how much you pay for the technology? There are also questions about how much you want to bring the skills internal to the company and how much you want to still keep things as outsourced. Um, and like I said, somewhere between the launch and growth stage, very typically what we have seen is decisions about what technologies to invest in are made. And once they are made, you are stuck with them for some time. And what we have seen is, because you make a decision at that point, if your decision is not broad enough accounting for the whole life cycle, then you get stuck. Then technology can become a blocker. We'll speak more about that a bit later. But in our experience, I just wanted to make sure that AI is not just seen as technology. AI is seen as a tool that's partnering in your business goals. If at all there is one, unlike BI tools, which will say that they will give you all intelligence from your existing data, I would say AI is probably more aligned to your objectives. If you are able to articulate saying, hey, this is my business goal, and if you can articulate that logically in a sentence, trust me when I say this, mathematically creating an artificial intelligence model is possible. As long as you can articulate and as long as there is a data capture that is relevant to that problem, we should be able to solve any problem. That's the high level principle. Now, that principle being there, again, a range of use cases that I just wanted to familiarize you again, not that you guys are not aware, but just wanted to put a logical grouping to it, is that when it comes to the marketing aspect of business, you could look at all these areas such as customer segmentation, lifetime value, how much can you cross-sell, upsell? Do you want to prevent churn? Is churn natural to the business? How much churn is natural to the business? And if you want to prevent churn, do you want to prevent churn among the high customer lifetime value customers or the low lifetime value customers? What kind of initiatives do you want to have? How do you want to really optimize the ad spend? Do you want to optimize the digital ad spend, the influencer marketing ad spend? Where is exactly the ROI? I mean, what are the consequences of reconfiguring your ad spends? All those things become questions. And typically people make decisions based on hunches, based on historical metrics. But well, there is AI. If you're not using AI, I will say you're losing out on an opportunity to get more insights. Whatever you think of, whatever you decide on today, if you are making those decisions based on just historical data, based on historical reports from BI tools, they are not bad. I would never say they are bad because pre-AI, everybody did that. But in the era of AI, where AI is so easily available, if you are not modeling these problems and if you're not looking at what the machine insights are, then I would say you're probably trusting yourself too much. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't trust myself too much simply because I'm not a machine to be able to see even a machine's inside. I might be able to see some heuristics. I might be able to see some patterns, but I would prefer to have the machine validate the patterns that I think there are rather than saying, hey, I'll ignore the machine learning and then simply make my own decisions. It might work well. It might not work well, but we would never know unless you actually try the machine learning model. So my recommendation generally is, if you're able to articulate any of these problems, you should look at the machine learning models. But whatever here you see in the next 2-3 slides are also just different sets of use cases organized by functions in your business. So you've seen one set of use cases that are related to marketing, your outreach for the customers, but there could also be this whole demand and supply chain planning. How do you, I mean, this is all vendor side of the operations also, right? I mean, I'm sure unless you guys are into manufacturing, in which case you might have manufacturing related use cases. If you are sourcing your materials, your products. And if you have multiple vendors, even the vendor management can become very huge challenge to deal with, especially if you have vendors with different types of contracts, different types of credit cycles, and so on. So how do you want to really forecast demand? How do you want to place inventory? Very recently, we came across one ask, and that ask was, how do we know how much stock to place at different locations? Because if we get that decision wrong, then one place has overstock, one place has understock, and that causes a huge opportunity loss. And that's a very interesting, it's a very interesting ask. I'm very confident that machine learning can solve it, but those are the types of questions that you should start thinking about. Similarly, where should we set up the warehouse? I mean, given how metros are growing and given how the difference between tier 1, tier 2 cities is reducing, I think this question also should be coming up, especially if your business is going, um, offline, you want to go to multiple locations, you want to make your supply chain more efficient. You're setting up warehouses, even this question will come up. Do you want to make a warehouse location decision purely based on cost? Or is there some strategy element to it to say, hey, I want my customer to receive the product inside 24 hours or inside 12 hours or maybe in 8 hours in some cases? And how do I plan for that? How do I actually get the locations? So all things like those that you can think of on the demand supply chain side. And similarly, how do you optimize the customer experience? So increase revenue, cut costs, reach better to the customer, but also create a stellar experience to the customer. So the customer is brought to the store or the customer is brought to your Amazon storefront. At that point, what can you do to improve their experience? What can you do to make them buy? What can you do to create interest, keep them engaged? Are you able to understand and profile them better so that you can make relevant offerings? Or you're just hoping that your offerings will automatically make sense to the buyer and then they buy? I mean, again, these questions, all of them may not strike a chord with you depending on which phase of business you are in. But I'm sure these questions would have crossed your mind at some point or the other. You could also think about price optimization. Again, I don't know if this is applicable to all businesses, but one variant of dynamic pricing that is applicable to most businesses that I think of is the discount coupons. Everybody wants to offer a discount and they want to know exactly what is the level of discount where we can get the customer to buy and not leave. Right. So I mean, it's a very tricky question. What if you offered 100 rupee extra discount? Would the customer have taken the item? Imagine if the answer was yes, you would be kicking yourself for not offering that 100 rupee discount or something like that, right? So I think those are the variety of use cases that we are seeing and we are already doing, and it's exciting to learn from these also. I would just take a pause at this point. I'm looking at the questions answers to see if there are any questions.
So there is one question from Gautam.
Yeah.
He's asking, which industries are you referring to and at what scale? Uh, and he also wants to know who writes the AIML, algorithm logics and what all data is fed in the algorithm. We can take it up now, or we can take it up towards the end.
No, that question I'll probably park because I will be able to actually show the platform and then give you a 5-minute quick walkthrough of how easy it is to connect data and what we can do in terms of AI and machine learning. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I started off by stressing that we are AI, but we are auto AI. I can show you how the algorithms are made. Again, we want you guys to think less about algorithms. We want you guys to think more about business. So the heavy lifting of what algorithm and how it needs to operate is all done by Rapid Canvas. But again, just to make you believe that those are all good models, there's a lot of explainability embedded. But yeah, we can discuss that later. I'm seeing one question here that's asking how can a early stage brand make use of AI? Again, I don't know how early is early stage brand in this question. Is it like 6 months early? Is it like 12 months early? I wouldn't know. But I can tell you that we are working with one 6 months old brand. That's probably my definition of early. And what we have seen is they they started doing some certain tasks so manually. Uh, I had a conversation today, and they were happy to have AI help them. Again, is this AI? Is this automation? Majority of what happens at the early stage brands is more automation and less AI. But you could have AI from as early as probably 6 months old. Why? Simple catalog-based recommendations. Today, if you set up a store on Shopify, and imagine you have some 5,000 SKUs, depending on again whatever your business is. How do you know Shopify is making good recommendations? I don't know if there's anyone who can give me a convincing answer to that. Because I mean, as someone who has an understanding of AI, when we look at Shopify explaining their own machine learning, it's simple a priori algorithms that they use for making recommendations. But your catalog is different from somebody else's catalog. How can one algorithm be good enough for everyone? And that's where we have seen that even for an early stage brand, a simple solution such as a catalog based recommendation system, because you know that customers are likely to buy certain collections more, certain collections less. You know what products are more related to each other and so on. That kind of an input and making personalized recommendations very early still helps. So I can share more stories about that as we go on. But yeah, that's one question that we put. Cool.
So it's safe to say also, Vinay, right? Maybe as far as something on the personalization front is concerned, it's important to at least have a problem of plenty in terms of either the cataloging size is too big or the traffic that they have on their website currently is something that that's also crossing certain limits for them to face the problem in terms of uh, starting to use some automations as an early stage startup.
I don't know if I understood the question correctly, but my sense is that it's a chicken and egg problem. If you wait too long to have enough critical mass before you start investing in technology, then that critical mass will come and hit you very hard. Because when business takes off, you get so wrapped up in the pace of the business that you make suboptimal decisions with respect to technology or just in general anything anywhere else, right? You want business success, business is succeeding, you're caught up with the flow, you're riding that wave. The other scenario is you make technology investment far too early and the business is not ticking, then you bought on yourself an additional cost. My sense is if you are smart, you will do your exploration. Typically, I think somewhere between 3 to 6 months, you should have figured out. I mean, I'm talking about, again, early stage D2C brands, someone who's starting out business, maybe like in the last 6 months, 8 months. If they have not already done that research on what kind of tech stack that they want to build, that will hold them in good place for the next 5 to 10 years, then I think they're probably lagging behind. It's good time to start doing that research. Like I said, that life cycle somewhere between the early stage and the growth stage, people make those decisions, and then those have to be made carefully. So 6 to 8 months, if you're there, you should start thinking about making technology investments. Again, don't be committed to technology investments. You should look at tech investments also in such a way that you can make an exit if you need. There has to be interoperability. Imagine one technology switch that I know is very, very common in the D2C space is the store itself, right? Why do I say this? Because I spoke to founders who told me that the first time they have set up the store, it was on WordPress. 1 year
Then
into business,
Shopify.
they know WordPress is not able to handle their requirements. They moved to Shopify. And then I thought, oh, okay, that transition makes sense. I mean, obviously, Shopify is much more sophisticated compared to WordPress. But then I found out that at the far end of the growth stage, once they're hitting the maturity, the same complaint happens saying, hey, Shopify isn't good enough for us. We want to move to something like Magento, or we want to try build something based on our own experience. We'll take some open source solution, do some customization, tweaking. We want to build our own store. And I'm like, oh, wow. If your store itself is likely to change in a span of 5 years, you have to keep your options on other technology changes also so open. If not, you're going to struggle, right? I mean, imagine, is there one technology that you can tell me that plugs into WordPress, Shopify? I don't know what other tools you will have. You will have some other customer data platform. You will have some other tool to maybe track your website analytics, store analytics. As it is, one other issue that I know is people have a problem getting access to Flipkart APIs and Amazon APIs. That data itself is not easily available. Again, people can validate those in the audience. But when you have complaints like those, you cannot be heavily invested into technology. You have to be swift. You have to be light-footed, and you have to say, okay, I take technology that is adaptable. I take technology that is interoperable. If not, it's going to drag you down at some point, right? Cool. So again, just to go back to the benefits of pursuing those use cases, again, not necessary that you have to pursue all the use cases. Typically, your journey, like I said, starts with optimizing for 1 or 2 metrics at a time. But what we have seen is using AI massively helps. Couple of examples that I can talk about are Rekta and MT Thompson. Rekta is a Delhi-based organization, the largest organization for housing Urdu literature and literature on Indian languages. Very proud of doing that. They're a sister concern of Polyplex, another company. I think their festival called Jashne Rekta is very, very popular. Their leadership is fantastic. When I heard their user metrics and the engagement metrics, I was blown away. That's the amount of engagement that they have on the store. To them, the question was, how do we make our users discover products? We have such huge collection, but our sales are so skewed towards a very small collection of the catalog. How do we actually present our catalog better to the people? That was their problem. So they were not running behind making money. For them, the simplest task was discoverability. I have some great books in my collection. I want people to see those. Whether they buy those or not, that is secondary. But how do they get to see those? And that is the first instance where we had to think about catalog-based recommendations, work with Rekta and make it. And then amazingly, what we have seen is a month-on-month difference of nearly 5 times in the add to cart ratio. People started adding more and more books into the cart, and we have seen that earlier, whatever books were not even seen started getting visits. People were adding them to the cart. But of course, after that, I didn't have access to any metrics. So I'm assuming that they buy, but add to cart is where my tracking stops. But even there, a month-to-month increase of 5 times in terms of the add to cart. Rekta is super happy. We are super stoked. We want to also continuously work with them to see how best we can actually improve this machine learning model so that people start buying. Because one thing is discoverability, but obviously the problem doesn't end with discoverability. So what after discoverability? People should buy. So what does it take for people to buy? So obviously the next steps could probably include, how do we present this? How do we package this? Do we want to give a bundle offer? Or if, do you want to do some kind of a market basket analysis to say people who bought this also can buy this? There are all those options that are available. We are exploring, but we can go back. But that's a very simple story that I'm telling you. All it took was realistically some 3 to 4 weeks of effort in understanding what their data was to go towards delivering the entire solution. But again, just in that particular scenario, I want to highlight a non-AI problem, a tech problem. Rekta struggled because they did not understand how to write back recommendations to Shopify. Again, you guys can tell me if you are users of Shopify. Shopify looks all good from the outside, but in my own experience, I have seen Shopify APIs suck. They cause all kinds of problems. You will be forced to use some third-party apps to get your own data, to control what you can write, what you cannot write. And this is an experience that I heard from Rekta and a few other brands that we worked with. And personally, like I said, I was going through the documentation and I know the number of sub-queries that I had to raise because the documentation would have a lot of question marks. In fact, Rekta struggled because they had to go and ask their partners, and the partners gave them a bomb code. And I was wondering why such a bomb code, and then I figured out that Shopify's ecosystem looks good from the outside, but it has its own limitations. And that's also one reason why we understood eventually that, hey, once you're at a certain stage of growth, even Shopify isn't good enough. Again, that's just an example. MT Thompson is an automotive parts manufacturer, Brazil-based, one of the first companies in the country, today also a top company. These guys, they had a supply side problem. they were procuring raw materials that go into the production of automotive components. And they had so many vendors, they had so many contracts in place. They they had trouble understanding how to place orders. I mean, not that they had trouble as in a trouble of knowing what to order. It's a question of how much to order. Because if you order too much, then you are stocking inventory. If you order too less, then you are losing out on the opportunity to make more and sell more. It's a simple production optimization problem. Again, we looked at their data, we looked at their sales. So we had to solve the problem from two sides. One, we had to have a demand forecast. Without a demand forecast, you cannot really start optimizing for what you can get on the supply side. You don't simply overstock because you want to be safe, right? How much safety is safety? No one knows that. So we had to do demand forecasting. And based on the numbers that we derived from demand forecasting, we started feeding that into the inventory optimization model. And we figured out, again, this is immediately after 1 month from implementing the solution. MT Thompson came back to us saying that they were able to stock 100,000 units less compared to their prior months. Again, no loss to business, but simply 100,000 units less stocking. They are happy. They have more working capital right now. So again, just a couple of stories. I have more stories to share, but that's for later. Usually in our line of business, what we have seen is people find it daunting when we say the word AI for three reasons. Number one, it's very hard to get a data scientist. If you get a data scientist, it's very hard to get a data scientist with the subject matter expertise. Because what we hear very often is, hey, even if I get a data scientist, it's very hard for me to tell him the business sense, because then he gets very busy with thinking about the models, the model efficiencies, and then he loses the business purpose. That's what we notice, that most data scientists are so occupied with optimizing for the data, sometimes business takes a backseat. And that's simply talent shortfall for us. The second part is, even if you have AI, how do you productionize AI? How do you put that model into production so that it becomes one with the business? That's the question. And that's a question that's not very easy to answer. You need to have someone who understands cloud. You need to have someone who understands tech in general, how the integrations work, and be able to see that entire picture and say, oh, this is how an AI prediction can come into play, and keep the business flow seamless. Again, we have seen that's an exercise in itself. I don't want to comment on how complex or how easy it is. Depends on what kind of skill set you carry. But those are two problems. And because these two problems exist, what happens is, typically an AI project that starts today will probably end up happening by the end of the year. Like 8 to 9 months is the minimum time that it takes. Every week they are figuring out one problem. Every week they come back with one solution. Another problem is discovered, another solution is figured. The iterations go on. And business owners generally get frustrated. Somewhere in the second, third month, their frustration starts showing. Somewhere at the fifth, sixth month, they will simply give up also. And therefore, even this metric that we are seeing, that more than 50% of the projects are ROI negative because you spend before you realize value. And the second issue is, even if you spend, even if you realize value, it's coming too late for you to even be okay with that value. And that's the biggest problem. Now, very specific to D2C, what we have noticed is few things. This is again my personal experience. Everybody's personal experience could be different, but in my experience, what I've seen is missing forest for the trees, meaning that they are so consumed about solving the problem at hand. Like if they are worried about solving the single source of truth problem, that's it. That's their focus. The next 2, 3, 4 weeks, whatever it is, I'm only worried about solving that part. Nothing else. The issue with that approach is, you will solve for one campaign, you will solve for one data point, you will solve for maybe another event, and so on. When will you actually tie together a strategy that will hold you in good state for over a long time? Right? That's a problem. So the fixation on solving the simpler stuff, the fixation on, for example, one issue that I find people very, very fixated with is scrape data, scrape data, scrape data. I'm like, fine, scraping is fine. It has its place. It's not everything, right? At least as a business leader, it cannot be everything for you. So, but that's one thing that I've seen where people say, I have so much problem, I'm scraping data, I will think about AI later. Yeah, you can say that to me, but you need to start as early as possible for your own good. The second thing that I have seen is short term is always the priority. Hey, I have a festival coming up. I have a campaign planned for the festival. I'm so busy. I am constantly looking at the screen to see what is the add to cart ratio. I'm constantly looking at the screen to see what is the performance like. If I have to make tweaks, I've offered a 15% discount. I need to see if I need to make it 20% or 25%. Like, yeah, it's a second nature to D2C business. You are in the business of selling, you are in high velocity sales. No wonder short term is always the priority. But that cannot be a blocker saying, hey, I won't take out 15 minutes to think about what will AI do for me in the long run, what I can do to automate so that I don't have to be in the rush that I am in today, right? So that's one thing that I just wanted to think about. The rush is always there, but what can you do to get out of the rush? The third thing that I've seen again, it's a point that we discussed a bit earlier also, is the uninvestigated tech investments, meaning that I see some D2C brands and I have already seen that they have invested in some tool to do inventory optimization. Okay, you have one tool to do inventory optimization, but can it do demand forecasting? No, we are still trying to figure out how to do demand forecasting. That's a problem, right? You invest in a tool that delivers a point solution. Now you need to go find another tool which will deliver another point solution. How many tools will you get? At some point, your own team will come back to you and say, hey, I have a tool fatigue. There are so many tools doing so many things. I need a BI. And then BI becomes another tool that you add, right? So what I have seen is because people don't take that research on what tools to invest seriously in the 6 to 8 month period, they end up making these decisions one at a time, not as a framework. They suffer. And they're so married to that technology, it's very hard for them to make a move. And for that transition, they start building tech teams again. Uh, I've heard one such story about a very big brand. I won't name the brand, but I heard that they are hiring an army of data analysts just so that they can make sense of data that is coming from different points. I heard that and I was like, this must be the silliest thing that I'm hearing. You cannot have an army of analysts for any D2C business. D2C business by nature is defined. It's very mature and well understood. You should be okay having a couple of data analysts giving you everything that you want. You cannot have hundreds of guys just coming in for analytics. That's that type of cost. If you are ready to put in that type of cost, I'm happy you have that kind of a money, but I'm also unhappy that you're spending it on things that are unnecessary. But yeah, that's the third block that I have seen because they're married to so much of technology that they invested in. It's very hard for them to come out of the technology. Those are three specific blocks in my personal experience that I've seen with the D2C brands. Um, Again, like I said, I'm done with the presentation overall. I can show you a quick walkthrough of Rapid Canvas. We've already talked a little bit about the Rekta story, the MT Thompson story. But if you allow me, I will just show you how simple Rapid Canvas is. But if that's not important and if you have more questions, I'm happy to just hold off on my product presentation if there are more questions. The product presentation, maybe I can schedule with you one-on-one. I'm happy to do that also. Whichever way you want to take.
So we have the recording of the webinar that will be listed on our YouTube channel, Rahul. So if that helps. But if you guys have any question, feel free to post it in the chat and we can take it up. I think Arshad asked about what are the things that an early brand should be very cautious about. I think you did briefly mention, but do you want to touch upon on that topic? You want to add something or maybe summarize in 2, 3 points?
No, again, like I said, early stage, what's the business, right? Like I said, the 6 months early stage business, I've seen catalog-based recommendations, personalizing the experience of the customers. I mean, forget personalizing. At this point, for an early stage brand, I would say that there are still basic questions about how do you optimize the store experience? How do you want to define the store experience for your
Yeah.
customer? Even something as basic as that, I think there should be an investment made. Whether it is AI automation, I will let someone someone introspect, do their own research. I'm happy to help with the specifics, but my point is this: somewhere in that stage, you should already start investigating what tech is the best tech that can stay with you for as long as you can build.
Got it. Do you recommend Shopify Flow for retention workstream for a mid-sized D2C brand, or should we buy more engaged like SaaS from day one?
That's a nice question. I won't be able to answer the question without specific. Trust me, because again, I've seen benefits, I've seen limitations in different technologies. Like I said, the way a books business works, the way, let us say, a snacks business works, the way, let's say, a suitcase business works, these are all so different. I will reserve my recommendations on. I can offer my recommendations only once I know the specifics of the business.
Hmm. Uh, okay. And any best practices that you may have for mid-sized D2C brands? I think we've spoken a lot about early stage brand, but you want to touch upon on, say, the mid-size best practices on as far as AI is concerned, uh, for the mid-size and for the large size D2C brands?
I think the early stage is fairly obvious. The large D2C brands are also fairly obvious, because once you are large, once you cross, like I said, the 100 crore mark or so, I think your focus now becomes optimizing on operations, but also it goes into avenues such as how do I go into new markets? So use cases such as where do I set up my workflow? What is my next best market? What
Hmm.
kind of market research should I do? How do I customize my products for that market? How do I launch? Those questions are all very, very important. So you can start doing some work in that area. But it's the growth stage startup, growth stage D2C brands, that's where things get interesting. That's where I've seen some kind of juggling with use cases. Is it
Hmm.
customer retention that is important? Depends on what's the typical order value, right? So, for example, if you are in uh, I don't know. I thought churn would be important for all businesses,
Hmm.
right? But then I found out that a brand like a suitcase brand won't really care so much about churn, simply because, look, the customer comes, buys the product once,
Yeah.
then the customer may not come back till the next 2-3 years.
Yeah.
Customer may help spread the word and bring more referrals, but the customer by himself or herself is not coming back to buy. So
Hmm.
in that case, churn doesn't, it's not logical to think of churn as a problem there. It's not a day-to-day problem, right?
Hmm.
Whereas for an FMCG product, the customer is buying a snack and he's not coming back to buy the snack.
Yeah.
That's a problem, right?
So,
So
and interest, go on, sorry.
go.
And interestingly, we also had somebody from Nashamile also join us today. The fact that you just pulled up an example of a luggage company that way.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, good to have somebody from Asher Miles, but I'm just referring, right? Even think of Nilkamal. Think of Nilkamal as a brand, right?
yeah,
Nilkamal is a fantastic brand. It's probably the world's largest for the modular furniture. Even they don't worry so much about churn, because you buy furniture once. It's not like you're coming back to me in the next 2 days. I'll
yeah,
have to wait for maybe 2-3 years before you come back.
yep. So Rahul also wants to check what is the best search tool for Shopify in your opinion. There are so many tools which promise almost the same feature. Search is a huge challenge.
What is search?
So I think search tab that we have on a D2C brand on the website,
You're talking about the search
search
bar?
optimization, search bar.
Yeah, yeah. So
So there are so many search tools, right?
yeah.
So product search.
Yeah, I know. Shopify search sucks. I'm totally with you on that. I know that it doesn't even sometimes offer relevant search results. I've seen that. I was talking about that with somebody else also today, but I have to see really what works. I have certain examples that I can think of, but to be honest, I haven't personally tried anything on the search side. I want to try it myself and then see what works best. But yeah, I'm aware of this, that it can be silly sometimes how it returns the results.
Okay. Anybody has any other question? Okay, I think that's about it. Any final thoughts that you have, Vinay? You'd like to share something?
Yeah, I want to just quickly show the platform to just give a taste to people on how AI is very, very simple with Rapid Canvas. So allow me to just share my screen. Where is this?
Do you think we'll be able to wrap that up in a few minutes?
3 minutes max.
Okay. There's a question also from Mohit. He wants to know, have you worked on customer behavior on website? Does it impact or improve the ROAS?
Of course. Of course. Oh, this one took me a long time to understand, but yeah, I mean, Google Analytics offers a way of looking at the visitor behavior. In fact, they create user IDs for every visitor who comes to the website, and they have like what is the user doing every step of the way, what time, what IP, and so on. So having that kind of information and having some way of using that into intelligence, this is fantastic. Because it's obvious, right? How do you optimize your website? You can optimize your website only based on where the users are going to, what the users are searching for, what they want to find. Just bring the most relevant products to the homepage. Right. So yeah, that's there. I think that question was from Mohit. So Mohit, good question, but that's doable. Yes, we have worked on customer behavior on the website. Does it affect improving ROAS? Of course, yes. But again, how does it affect improving ROAS? It takes few things, right? It takes some changes on the website. It takes some changes on how you do your own ad campaigns and how you present your landing pages, stuff like that. So subtle changes, but yes, it works. It works crazy good. So very quickly sharing my screen. In this case, this is not a D2C data, but this is a sample data that I am showing you. The personal loan offers data is data of some bank customers who were offered a personal loan. And some people obviously accept the loan, some people don't accept the loan. So the question that we had was, how do you find out who is more likely to accept the loan? Now, this data set I've simply uploaded onto Rapid Canvas, but you don't have to worry about uploading the data all the time. Rapid Canvas has a ton of connectors. So we have about 418 connectors. So name your technology. If it's Shopify, we can connect to Shopify. If let us say you have, I don't know what other tools. If you have HubSpot, we can connect to HubSpot. If you're using something like Ship Rocket or Hero or ShipStation to manage all your deliveries and all of that, we can connect to that. So there are a ton of apps that we can connect to pull the data. I have some that I connected to. But yeah, I mean, in this example, I've just uploaded the data. Like I said, it's sample data. And then I have my questions, right? I'm trying to be a very novice user here. So I'm just asking basic questions on a feature that we have called Ask AI. So I put my data into the system and I'm saying, hey, can you understand the data and tell me a little more about the data? Can you describe the columns in the data? Of course, it gives me the description immediately. So what is this column called CD account? I have the columns information available anyway, but I'm asking it to expand. Then I am saying, look, I don't know what to do with this. Can you help me with some ideas on what I can do? And this is a very generic question anybody can ask in any format, right? What are the ML use cases that we can build using this data? And like I said, when I brought the data, I had the context that this is for understanding who takes a personal loan or who does not take a personal loan. But I don't have to limit myself to just doing that. So I simply ask the question anyway, saying, hey, what are the use cases? What are the different problems that I can solve? I don't want to just rely on one ID. Then it gave me 12 different ideas. Can you see? 12 different ideas. Predicting whether a customer will accept the loan offer, but also predicting their card spend, predicting the education, predicting securities account and everything. And then I said, okay, that's all fine. I don't know what to do. What am I supposed to do with that data? How do you want me to deal with the data? And again, it can give me all the steps that I need to do with the data. So what I can do is I can continue doing that exercise until I have the perfect solution that I want. Even better than that, what I had done earlier was we have this concept called a rapid model recipe. And that is simply like your data scientist on demand. Because how does a data scientist work? Data scientist takes your data, starts making a study of the data, starts making decisions on what to do with the data, what problem to solve, and how to solve. So what we did was we simply created a rapid model. So here, if you see, I have a model for binary classification called accepting a personal loan offer. Simple, very simple. I have to simply go in there and say, look, my target is whether somebody accepts the personal loan or not. That's the target column. That's the only thing that I'm mentioning, nothing else. That's my target. Do whatever you have to do, give me the result. Tell me more about it. And now you will see that there is an audit report that shows you what are all the steps that it had done on the data. Did it drop any constant columns? Did it fill any missing values? Did it drop any columns that did not really add value to understanding who accepts the loan, who does not accept the loan? And you eventually end up getting a model that is completely built. Again, this is a very technical term. I don't want to hassle anybody with an understanding of the model. But what happens is at the end of this process, few steps, all of this takes about 10 to 15 minutes for me on the sample data set. But at the end of it, from that data, I have like 5 different apps that very clearly tell me, hey, if you want to understand somebody's customer car, the credit card spend, just go in there, punch in some details that you know about the customer. You will get how much they're likely to spend. If you want to understand whether somebody will accept a loan offer or not, again, just go put in some customer details. You will be able to see whether somebody will accept the loan offer or not. So we are an end-to-end platform. I don't want to hassle you with technical details, like I said, but all of this is self-serve, very easily doable. I'm just opening the data app to show you what it shows. So for example, in terms of understanding who accepts a personal loan, this is a very simple chart that says, hey, here are the top 10 variables. You might have any amount of information on the customer, but here are the top 10 things that influence who takes the loan or who does not take the loan. This could be the same as who will buy my product or who won't buy my product, right? And like I said, a simple what if analysis, you can start punching in the numbers. You could put this is the age and so on, or whatever it is, and simply say, hey, predict the outcome, depending on whatever it's. Again, don't be scared with all these numbers. It's all sample data, my experiment, my play. But when you get to experience rapid canvas, this is how simple it is going to look like. In this case, for example, some random record it is telling me, hey, this person won't take the loan, which is okay. At least you know that, right? So I will close my presentation there. I will be happy to just stay on for another few minutes if you have any questions. Otherwise, I'm good to go.
All right. I think thanks for quickly sharing that. But I definitely feel that there's a better outcome to it when it's done one to one, because I think with AI,
Yeah,
each everybody is going to have a very individual use case to it, and the kind of problem that we have to solve for them is also very
yeah.
unique in itself. So I think we are good on the questions front also. Thank you so much, Vinay, for doing this, and Saurav and Kavya also to join in, the entire Rapid Canvas team. And thank you for everyone who could join in today. Hope that Vinay was able to help solve for few ambiguities that you guys had. Feel free to get in touch with them in case there is any further query that you want to help solve for. And we'll share the presentation with you guys, and you can check out the recording on our YouTube channel. And yeah, that's all from our end. And thank you, Vinay, for doing this.
Bye bye.
Take care then.